On this video, I'm gonna show you how to make a terrain with mountains, depression, and plateaus. And by the way, this is the version of Unity that I'm using. So the first thing I'm gonna do is, only because my recording software is limited to this window, so I'm gonna close some of these tabs, and by closing these tabs I'm gonna have a bigger window here. And you can always get this window back by coming here and clicking on default settings on default layout. So I'm gonna close this for now. I'm gonna close this tab also. So game object, create other, terrain. Now notice that this terrain is very large, and for this demonstration purpose only, I'm gonna make it a lot smaller. So I'm gonna make it 100 by 100. And by the way, Unity's unit of measurement is meters. So this terrain would be 100 by 100, and the height I'm gonna have it to be also. I want to have it to be 50. By pressing the Alt key and the left mouse click, I can move this terrain around. Now if you notice that my terrain is right flat on the plane, so this is my terrain, this is the plane, it's right on top of it. I want to raise it a little bit, and we're going to know why later. So I'm going to flatten that at 25 meters. And what it does, if you notice, that it just raises my terrain a little bit, and later we're gonna know why. So now that I have my terrain, I can start making my mountains. And these are the brushes that allow you to make mountains. So all I have to do now is click and drag around. Now the opacity is how strong your mountains, or how big your mountains are going to be. So I'm going to use the opacity a little stronger to make bigger mountains. You can change around for other patterns, other brushes, and we'll make it mountains just as well. If I hold the Shift key, and this is how I make depression. So if you notice now, I'm making depressions instead of mountains, and that you accomplish that by holding the Shift key down. So the next thing we're going to learn is to make plateaus. So I'm going to go to the next tool here, and the height is 25. I'm gonna set the height to 30. Now you should not flatten. If you flatten, you're gonna lose all of your work. So if the height of my mountain now, the maximum height of my mountain is 30, I'm gonna zoom in, and then once I start drawing my mountain, the mountain is gonna stop rising by 30. Now let's talk about this number 30 here. So if you remember, initially we had the height flattened at 25 meters. And if I change to 30 meters now, that doesn't mean that the height of my mountain is going to be 30. It means it's going to be only 5. Remember, 25 is the distance between the terrain and the plane. 30 is the distance between the top of your mountain up to the bottom of the plane. I'm calling this the plane, but I'm not sure the name of this grid. So the total size of your mountain is only 5 meters. If I go back to my mountain and I click on Shift, I'm gonna get the opacity very heavy. So if I come to the mountain tool and I hold the Shift key down, and you're gonna see that I can make it my depression, and I'm gonna make my depression very fast. So now, and you can see here that the maximum depth of my depression is the height that we earlier flattened the terrain. So the height of this depression is 25, and you cannot go lower than that unless you flatten your terrain again. So the last tool we're going to look is the smooth height, and I'm going to zoom in here on this mountain, and what this tool does, it just smooths your mountains, and that's all.